No idea what's going on. All right, can everybody hear me? All right, can everybody hear me? All right, I've been having some technical difficulties tonight. All right, I've been having some technical difficulties tonight. Give me 1 second here. I think we're good now. So this live is on my business page. So we are going to not start fully over. We're gonna just go forward. The technical difficulties was crazy tonight. But thank you guys for being on. So give me 1 second to just set up really quick. We'll go for from here. All right, we are live from YouTube and Facebook, which is my DMPSpeaks page. So we're going to go from here. Sorry, guys, that I'm late. Like I said, definitely a lot of difficulty tonight, but we're going to make it happen. So, to quell, if you can repeat, and we're going to be good for tonight, can you repeat what you think purpose is? And we'll go from that question. Then I'll have these other questions, and we'll get into your book. So if you don't know who this is my friend, Mr. Taquel Morris, because like I said, we had a lot of difficulties. He is one of my close friends. We work together, but he is doing an amazing job in Syracuse, New York. He'll tell you a little bit about himself. Okay. We already had started the whole interview, but we were starting to have some technical difficulties. But we are online now, and we're going forward. So I see he is on here. I see he's on Instagram as well. You could have kept that if you wanted to. Are you good? You can't hear me?
I was muted. I didn't realize I was muted. It's still up there.
Cool. All right. So what is purpose? What does purpose mean to you? And after you answer that question, what do you feel that some of our youth or some of the youth that you work with in your school, what do you feel like they're missing when they're trying to get their purpose or find out what their purpose is?
All right. So I definitely feel like my answer is going to change because it wasn't something that I wrote down. So purpose to me is the reasoning on something, the reasoning for something that exists. And so it's the passion place meeting the you that creates something that exists. And so when you have a passion for something, it's no longer a task, it's no longer a job, it's a passion. So I can spend more time on it because, again, it's a passion. For you, it's a job. For me, it's a passion. And so your second part of the question, it was something about students and what?
The second part is, do you feel that a lot of youth that you work with, that you see, do they have a problem finding their purpose? Or do you feel like a lot of them know what their purpose is and not going forth? Because I know they're young, but do you feel like a lot of your students or just young people in general, do they know what they want to do? Do they know their purpose?
So in the 21st century, I think a lot of young people don't know their purpose because purposefulness, right? Purposefulness is not something that's spoken about in homes many times. So it's about being tough, being a mother, or cooking, cleaning. You make sure that you got, you don't look like a harlot, for church saying, right? Or making sure that you don't look like this person that stands on the street. But it's not about, hey, what's your purpose? What are you really looking for? Why do you exist? Why does that passion place in you exist? And so that's one of the things that we don't teach our kids. That's one of the things we don't talk about in most of our homes is the purpose that you have, period. Whether it's in the secular world, whether it's in the religious world, whether it's just in you. What's your purpose? What are you doing? And so students oftentimes don't realize that, so they miss that part. They miss that point of, what is my purpose? What am I doing? Because you can easily get stuck in what you're going through, so you'll miss the purpose.
Do you feel like a lot of your students are in that right now, and that can be a struggle for them? Because a lot of kids, a lot of educators, and you probably are doing this now, you're probably not just being a principal, but you're being a father figure. You're being a counselor. You're being transportation. You're being almost a father figure to some of these kids. How was that experience? How is that like? That's why I asked you that, because I want this answer, brother. I want this answer because I want to help somebody.
So I will say this, and I hold no shots when I say this. I am one of the most unorthodox leaders, period. And so when I say that I am one of the most unorthodox leaders, period, it's that thing where I am that leader that goes above and beyond. Hold on.
That's me.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So I am one of those leaders that go above and beyond to ensure that students are good and that they have everything that they need, right? And so that's more than just the students, but that's for the families as well. I can recall a time when I first got to the school I'm at, there was a young dude who was struggling real bad, right? Struggling real bad, and every class would show up third period. And so I made a bet with him, and I told his mom, I called his mom and said, listen, if he don't show up, I'm coming to his house. And I'm going to wait for him to get dressed. And so after 6 times of me going to his house, knocking on the door, waiting for him to get dressed and bring him to school, he was like, all right, all right. And so it's making that, and that inkling of, all right, this person cares about me. He don't really know me like that. He just got here, but he cared about me. Same kid, made a bet with him. If you get 3 A's this semester, I'll buy you a pair of sneakers. You tell me the price.
My goodness.
Right? And so as an educator, I don't make buku money. I'm not rich by far yet. Yet.
Come on.
And so, but my thing is that growing up, I was that kid who nobody really spent much time on. right? Because I didn't look worthy of it. And so that's one of the big things that we miss out because we look for the kid who's worthy of it.
That's right.
Versus the kid who doesn't look worthy of it. And I was that kid. And so that's one of the big things that I set my leadership abilities on, is making sure that I connect with the kids that nobody is looking for, nobody is going to talk to, nobody's going to say nothing about, or they're going to complain about. And so that's the big thing, making that connection. The same kid, we made another bet. I'm all for challenging kids by all means necessary. I don't care if people say you're bribing them, all of these things. It shows results.
Yes, it does.
And it
when
shows
you care, right? When you care, because you care.
Absolutely. Same kid, right? Same kid, street dude. He told me that he likes to rap, and we made a challenge. Come to school for 1 week. I go to your rap battle, right? Rap is not my thing, but we'll make it happen. Showed up at the rap battle. It was $75 to get in. Are you talking about $75?
75 big ones for that student, brother.
I paid it, right? I paid it. Got in, and if you can see the glow on his face, and to this day, we still have that connection with his family, all of those things, like making that call. Literally just text me on Facebook the other day. It was like, yo, Mr. Morris, I'm coming back to school. I'm just going to get myself back together. I promise you, I bought a car. And so it's that thing of feeling that accountability, but also feeling that somebody cares about you. I came from the hood, right? I came from the hood of having nothing. And so I understand how it is.
So let's go. And I love what he said. And I want you guys to do me a favor. YouTube and Facebook, share this. This is live on his Instagram page and my page. Share this, because I really want to help someone with their self-esteem. If you have a child that's dealing with low self-esteem, low confidence, don't love themselves, don't have any self-acceptance, I want you to hear this man right in front of you. And if you guys don't know, it's not that I just met this man 2 weeks ago. I literally grew up with Taquel in Syracuse, New York. Believe it or not, this is my son. I'm just joking. This is one of my great friends. And he has worked his butt off. If I can be serious for a moment, he has worked his butt off. And the person that you see in front of you today, this educator, this man of God, this minister, he just explained it, this person that really goes to the upper for the students, wasn't what you see in front of you. And I want to talk about this into our next segment. I want to show this book again because we didn't get a chance to. He has an amazing book. I don't know if everybody can see this. His book is powerful. It talks about his whole life, but it gives you some triumph. It gives you some courage. It gives you hope. It gives you a thought process that no matter what you're dealing with currently, you can get out. It's called Broken, but I can say this man is not broken. I'm not talking about financially. He might have been broke when he was younger, but this book shows that the growth, the consistency, the determination is all in this book. And I'm telling you, you have to go grab it. He'll tell you how to grab his book at the end of this show. Now, let's get into this book. You talked about very vividly how you felt like you were isolated, ostracized in your community. And we went to the same church. We're not going to get into that so much, but there was a certain way that we both grew up that I will say in a respectful way was very, very hard. But I believe that Taquel was dealing with a lot of church stuff that I was dealing with. That's a whole nother segment for another day. But he was dealing with some things in his home that I knew of. But I guess by actually reading this book, I had no freaking idea he was dealing with any of that. So Taquel, if you can just take a moment just to talk about how you grew up, the struggles, the things that you dealt with, so that people can really know you're not just writing a book just to write it. You're not just an educator because you don't understand. You actually do understand because you came out from there. So if you can tell the viewers a bit about how you grew and things like that, if you don't mind.
All right, so my time in New York State, and because it varied, I went to many different places with my family, with my mom, my dad, and some other people as well in my family. One of the things that I dealt with is living in a household with a mom on drugs and a dad who sold drugs. And so think about the irony of that. A mom who, used drugs and a dad who sold drugs, it automatically causes conflict, right? One has something that the other uses. How does that work? My dad, I can recall my dad in my household having a Buddha, right? A Buddha doll, and having fruit at the feet of the Buddha doll. And so my dad was Buddhist, right? My dad is Buddhist. My grandmother is a Christian preacher, and my grandmother raised me in the church. And so it was that kind of, what do you do? I love my dad. And then, but this is all I know. I know Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of other things, but I know Jesus, and that's all I really know.
Right.
And so my dad would never, I always wanted to feed the Buddha doll, and my dad would never allow me to do it. And he always told me, you're going to be a preacher. You're going to be a man of God. You're going to be in the church. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. But as a kid, I dealt with so much of, ranging from outside of my mom and my dad, ranging from that. But I dealt with somebody violating me, right? Taking my innocence. And so how does that work? How do you handle that? How do you take that in? And how is that person still around your family and nobody knows? Right? When your smile goes from a smile to now a cringe. So now every time you're around men in general, you're cringing and nobody knows it. But everybody in the church has discernment. How does that work?
Heavy.
And so it started to build resentment at an early age because, again, how is it that you serve God? You have discernment, but you can't see that. You can't see a young man is hurting and crying and screaming out. How does that work? Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not faulting anybody. I'm not calling anybody out because it is what it is. Right. I thank God that all of it happened because it made me who I am.
Right.
It made me be the leader that I'm able to call it out before it even before it even being said.
That's right. That's right.
See it. And so with that being said, growing up, I recall living in a hood, Brighton Brigade, to be exact. We didn't even have a refrigerator. Right? Mm-hmm. And so how does that work? How does that work in the summer when you don't have a refrigerator? You're living out of a cooler. I remember that. I remember moving our furniture on a grocery cart. Things that kids these days would never experience. I remember those things. I remember, and a lot of people may laugh, I remember taking a food stamp dollar bill and going to the store to buy a bag of chips to get the change. I remember living out of my car just to graduate because I got evicted from my apartment. I remember when people told other people not to hang out with me. And I knew.
And I can say that there were certain people that were in our home church that would tell my parents not to hang out with Tequel, to leave him, don't talk to him, he's bad news. And I told this saint, I understand what you're saying. I know he's a lot, but Tequel's my brother. And that's exactly what I told them. And I remember that vividly. And I didn't understand it. I was young, but I was like, what's wrong? I know he talk a lot and he got a little attitude, but this is who I talk to every day. Like, what? Why I can't hang out with him? But this is true. So this is not something he's just putting together. This is true. I just wanted to make that clear. Go ahead.
And we're talking back in the 90s, early thousands, but we're talking in the current that people are being said, Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. And so my mindset is I've been ostracized for so long. I've taken too many L's. I can't take no more. So everything from here on up is a W. It's a win. Forget what are you talking about? And so I think about the lyrics that Nicki Minaj said. I don't even know why you bother at this point. Like, give it up. It's me. And win, you lose. Period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Period. And that encompasses family, friends, church family, naysayers, all of those, because it was the same all across the board.
And again, guys, I had no idea he was dealing with all of this stuff. Crazy. I want you to talk a little bit about middle school. You talk about this in your book, how you were so excited to finally graduate from middle school, get into high school.
Very, very hard.
There was something that happened.
I was dealing with a lot of church stuff that I was dealing with.
When you were there. And I want you to talk about that middle school graduation, if you can, because that was something that really pricked my heart. I want you to just talk about it for a second. When you were graduating.
Yeah. So middle school was different all across the board, right? And I talk, and in the book, I go into detail on how everyone was at graduation. They were coming down the aisle. Coming down the hallway. Matter of fact, we were going to the class. We were waiting to be called, right? And so I go into detail because I can still vividly remember this. We were waiting to be called. And so everyone, when we're walking now down to the auditorium, you can hear all these families calling their kids, their grandkids, their nieces, their nephews, saying, oh my gosh, and holding flowers and all of this stuff. And it's me walking and no buttons there. No one. And so was I the only person that had no one? No. I'm sure. I mean, now that I think about it, I'm sure not. Right? But we're talking about me.
Right.
No one. No one. I lived one block down the hill. That's exactly 7 houses from the school. No one came. I remember waking, Scout's Honor, I remember going to bed that night and trying to sleep in my clothes so that I could be ready, because that's how anxious I was. I had never achieved anything else in life. Everything else, I was always told that I would be this, I would be that. I would never be able to do this. I would never. Graduation, I made it. What are you talking? Excited. Woke up super early, brushed my teeth. I put on my zoot suit. You got to.
We got a couple.
Listen, okay? You gotta be a saint to know what a zoot suit is.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know that ministry. They don't know that ministry, bro.
I put on my zoot suit to go to graduation. I remember walking up the hill to get to graduation, and then to walk down the hallway and nobody be there. I walked past my family in the living room. Had a whole suit on. I had a black suit on. I had a gray shirt, and I had a maroon and gray tie because that was my Easter suit. And nobody noticed that I was dressed up. Go to graduation. Graduation happens. Everyone's getting celebrated. Not me. I remember May 2nd. The hall monitor, Mr. Burke, told me, Taquel, you'll never be nothing. Right? It stands out because May 2nd was the day my dad died. And he didn't realize.
Wow.
He didn't realize it, and he told me that same day. What do you do?
How did you feel in that moment, man? What was it going in your mind when he said that, and then all this stuff going on? Like,
when he said it, my mind, at a kid age, my mind was, couple curse words at that point. And I mean, you might be right.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until hardship came that I began to think about, Mr. Burke said, you ain't gonna never be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this assignment done. Then when I started slacking, Mr. Burke said, you'll never be nothing.
You've been working.
Every time a hardship came, Mr. Burke said, you'll never be nothing. Start busting it down. Because then again, I never wanted to prove Mr. Burke or my family right, because it wasn't only Mr. Burke, it was my family as well. The people that are my blood.
Right.
So that's the problem. However, I will say when I worked at Syracuse University at the School of Education, we were doing interviews for a position. Never forget. Doing interviews for a position. And Carrie, yes, I will post it. And so we were doing interviews. And so I seen the name. As a kid, you didn't know educator's first name, but I seen that last name.
Oh yeah, you know it.
Lo and behold, who walks in? Mr. Burke.
My.
And so who interviews him? Me. And so he's like, I know you from somewhere.
Yeah. And
so now me and Jesus is having this argument in my head because I want to be so wrong.
Right. Oh, you know it. You know it. I want to get a piece of your mind.
And so every part of me wouldn't allow me to do it because of who I was. I've come too far. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And so we had the interview. A long story short, he didn't get the job because he didn't have the qualifications of it. But the only thing I thought of is, bro, you said I would never be nothing. And look who's interviewing you. Look how the tables turn. How'd that work?
Isn't that something? I want to dig deep, if you don't mind. We're almost done. And again, guys, do me a favor. Share this on Instagram. Share this on my personal or my business page, and I'm going to put it over to my personal page. But I want you guys to share this on YouTube, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also subscribe to his channel as well.
Thank you.
I want you to go a little bit deeper for just a few moments, guys. I want you to hear this. There were some other things beside mom or dad and family not coming to graduation, stuff that you dealt with at church. You dealt with something else that was very personal, that you kind of talked in the book. And again, if you don't feel like talking about it, it's fine. But there was something else that was detrimental. And the reason why I want you to kind of bring this out, because there are some young men, there's some young ladies, but there are some young men that things have happened to them. They're afraid to talk about it. I want you to be able to help somebody and free somebody tonight, because I don't want them to go down the same route that you had to go to or go through or go on. So if you don't mind, just tell me a little bit. You don't got to go too deep, but just to be able to help somebody, because somebody needs to be released from that fear of telling what happened to them so that they can go on with their lives. And he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And so again, this is nothing that no one knew. It's until the book dropped, literally. I mean, there's probably about 5 people in life that I told at one point in my life because I couldn't hold it anymore.
Right.
Living on Elk Street, my dad was one of the biggest drug dealers in the city. Again, money was not an issue. And so with money not being an issue, we had people that worked for our house, right? People to clean the car, people to fix the car, all of those things. However, it was the car fixer. My mom and my dad were gone, and it was the car fixer that came and decided that he was going to do what he wanted to do, right? Mm-hmm. First time, it didn't go that far. Second time, a little bit further, but it was the third time. And so it was when you decided that you were going to take my innocence, and it was nothing I can do. What do you do, right? As a kid.
Right.
Mind you that I grew up in the church, and all I heard is that God won't put more on you than you can bear. So I'm like, wait a minute, this stuff don't equal out here.
Mm-hmm.
It put me in a spot to where I had no trust for men at all, because I can remember him thrusting inside of me at an early age. Where everyone else said, oh, he's a faggot, he's this, he's that, he's that, he's that. And no one knew. Yeah. No one knew the man that was always at my house literally was taking my house. And no one knew.
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time to get to the point of kind of like dealing with it, kind of like categorizing it, prioritizing it, if you would call it, on how do I handle it? What do I say?
Right.
How do I forgive myself? A piece that I'm working on now is heal and then build. Heal and build. And so that was my biggest thing, that we're always taught to get in the bag, to get the bag. And we're never taught to heal and then get the bag.
I want you to say that again, because that's where my mind is. I want you to say that again.
We're often taught on how to get in the bag, get the bag. And so that's vernaculars of like younger versions or even our adult ages now, get the bag, I'm getting the bag. But we're never taught to heal and then get the bag. And so when you are broken and you're getting the bag, you're a broken person getting a broken person.
Well, let me ask you this really quick, not to cut you off. When getting the bag, and if you're not healed, are you just hurting yourself, or are you hurting someone else, or are you hurting your family? Because some people feel if I'm getting the bag, I'm good. But let's be honest, you can get the bag all day. If you are not healed, and if you're not healed and whole in that, then the bag doesn't really matter, because you can spend the money, but you're not happy. How do you feel about that? Because we have that. We live in that society. The bag, but people are not healed. So if you're not healed, what's going to happen next? What do you feel?
So right now, and like I said, I'm writing Heal and Build. And so that's one of the biggest things. In my heart of heart, I believe wholeheartedly, if you're not healed, it doesn't matter what you have, you'll never be whole. You'll never be happy. You can have the baddest guy in the world, you'll never be happy. You can have the baddest woman in the world and you'll never be happy. That's why you have the insecure person, or in these days, it's not just a man. So you have the insecure man who doesn't allow his woman to go out in anything because he's insecure. You have a woman who, the vice versa, who doesn't allow her man to go out in anything because she's insecure. They're not healed. They're not whole. And so that's the part. We're taking toxicity to a whole nother level because we don't have time to heal before we build. We're trying to work too fast instead of healing and building.
And I love what he said. You got to heal and build. So what can you say to somebody that's watching this tonight saying that's great, but I got to get the bag, but I could get healed later? What do you say to that person?
I'll tell them it doesn't matter what bag you're getting. Again, if you're not healed, it won't last. And I can tell you that because I've made more money than I have ever made. But it wasn't until I realized, bro, you're not healed. You got to get this together. And so that's when I stopped hurting other people. That's when I stopped dogging other people. Mm-hmm. Again, because listen, I dogged people because I didn't know what was going on in my brain, because I had never really addressed it. We have so many adults walking around with childhood hurt because they have not healed. And so if you have childhood hurt and now you have children, what do you do? What do you do? As a leader, I have a parent who took her child to another person's house to fight them. They fought on the bus, took the key, and entered into their house. How does that work? You haven't dealt with some things. And as a parent, I refuse to allow that generational curse of not being able to be healed before I'm building.
Awesome. And if you are enjoying this, guys, please share this with someone, because let's get these numbers up, because I really want somebody to find their healing. Get the bag, but make sure you get healed first.
Healing, then get the bag.
What did I say? Did I say that backwards?
No, you said it right. I just had to put it in perspective. Healing, then get the bag.
Telling you guys got to get this book, Broken. You got to get this. Now, why did you pick this title? Give me a few more minutes and we're done. Why did you pick this title, Broken?
Because I was broke.
I know it sounded like a weird question, but I wanted to know why. Like, why not healed? Why not another name?
When I first started writing, I wasn't healed. When I first started writing, I wasn't whole, right? I knew who God was, but I didn't know who God was for myself. I knew who God was for my grandmother. I had a relationship with God through my grandmother.
Yeah.
I didn't have a divine intervention with God myself.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I embarked on this phase of, what do I do? That I realized. Because one of the biggest things that we are dealing with as a body, and I'm not talking about a body of Christ, I'm talking about a body as a whole.
Yeah.
Is that we are misdiagnosing things, and that's why we're not getting healed. You can't go to the doctors and tell them that you have diabetes and think that they're going to give you chemo to heal your cancer.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, and so you say, what are you saying? With that being said is, we're not addressing the elephant in the room, the issue. And so when the question is posed, why did you come up with broken? Because I was broken from the inside out. I had no clue that I was broken, but I knew that something was wrong.
And I love what he said. When he wrote this book, he was not healed. That's crazy, but it's so real. You could be doing so many things, y'all. Great things. But in helping other people, but still feel that you're stuck. You're feeling like you are broken.
Many years I did that. Many years I helped other people, and I was done. Many years I helped other people, and I wasn't even in the same battlefield as them. And I don't think they knew that. Many years I stood at the altar and prayed for other people, right? But I didn't have the faith and belief that God was going to deal with me.
Let's talk about that for a moment, for just 2 minutes, and then we're gonna get to this last question. We're gonna get done. Talk about your faith. Now, my show is a mixture of God, or they say the higher power. But I tell people all the time, no matter how much I do practical things, I am a man of God. I have a belief and trust in God. If you can just encourage somebody just really quick in the spiritual side, and they're broken, they're shameful, they feel like God can't forgive them, or they having a hard time forgiving someone else, or they just feel like where there's current circumstances, this is it. Can you, on the spiritual side, can you give some words of encouragement and endearment to someone really quick?
Sure. So page 7, it says, but can I just reaffirm to you that God has not forgotten about you, your child, your nephew, or your niece. He is a man that cannot lie. One thing to remember is that God's timing is much different than ours, and he is sure to never be late. And so with that being said, trust and believe. Rest assured, it doesn't matter what it looks like today. I promise you, it will work out. I remember at an early age, sitting on the 12th pew in the church, that God told me he was going to save my mama.
My God.
Right?
Yeah.
My mom, who I hadn't seen in 3 months, 9 days, told me he was going to save my mama. Didn't believe him. And so with that, I take a sidebar and say, Stop believing the things that you can see, period.
That's good.
Because it wasn't until God saved my mother, took her off of drugs,
Yeah.
and I started to believe, like, wait a minute, I remember when you said.
Right.
And when my grandmother passed away, 2017, I would never forget. On Highway 280 in Birmingham, Alabama, living in Birmingham, and I got the call. I never forget. I wanted to drive. I literally wanted to close my eyes and drive off a cliff. Anybody knows anything about me? My grandmother is my grandma. My grandmother's my mom. My grandma is my life.
And that was my last question. So actually, you can go ahead and talk about her because I want to know what grandma meant to you. Gramps.
My grandmother is my life. If I didn't have these beads from one of my friends who's watching right now from New Orleans, I literally have my grandmother around my neck. Like, my grandmother is my life. Everywhere I go, my grandmother is always with me. Like, this is her ring off of her, always with me. My grandmother taught me who I am.
Yeah.
I would never forget my grandmother coming into the room and putting a ton of blessed oil on my forehead in the middle of the night while I'm trying to sleep. I never forget when everybody else left me, my grandmother was the only person there. I would never forget. I remember my grandmother frying fish and her muumuu while we're jumping over the porch and doing all these things. Everybody else playing outside, and my grandma like, oh, you got to come and get ready for church. I will never forget.
Yeah.
I will never forget my grandmother, even at an adult age, calling me and say, baby, we got to fast. And I'm like, we got to do what?
Right.
Baby, I'm grown now. We don't do that no more.
Right.
We got to fast. I remember that. My grandmother, that's one of the things my grandmother taught me is who you are. It doesn't matter. Can't nobody stop you. And you can do anything that you achieve to do. Anything you put your mind to do it, you can do it. It don't matter. And so it took a lot out of me because, again, my grandmother was my life. I lived with her all of my life until I moved out on my own. And when I moved out on my own, you would think that I didn't because she still dictated everything.
For sure. Because I was over there myself eating. Because that lady could cook.
Literally. Living with my grandmother all of my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until her passing that I really found out who God was. I totally remember. I totally remember saying, you know what? Oh, you done it now.
Yeah.
I got multiple family that you could take, and I will pay for their caskets.
And I want to say this too. He's so serious. And that's the thing that I love about him. Look at his face. He's so serious. And I'm saying, like, because I've been knowing him all my life. He's so serious. I just want to make this shit.
Period.
Yeah.
I will pay for the casket. God, I will pay for the flight to take them up to heaven with you. You didn't have to say my grandmother. Seriously. And so with that being said, going to counseling, talk about a therapist, a counselor, and a psychiatrist. We're talking about 3 days a week. Working 2 full-time jobs and a parent, and then going to 3 counselors a week because I had started going crazy because that's all I knew.
That was a lot for
my
you, man.
mom wasn't there and my dad wasn't there. My grandma was there. Right? Yeah. When everybody else told me what I wouldn't be, what I couldn't do, my grandmother was there. My grandmother was the one who sat on the side of the bed with me and said, baby, God got a plan for you. And nobody's going to be able to understand it. Right? My grandmother was there. My grandmother's the one who taught me when times get hard, you pray. When times get easy, you don't stop praying.
Right.
My grandmother taught me that.
Woman of faith for sure.
And so that's all I knew. And so when she passed, I recall not knowing what to do. But then I also had everyone, because when someone dies, I call it the mourners, right? They, oh my gosh, and you got to do this. But nobody was there with me.
Right.
Nobody came to pray with me. You're telling me to pray, but nobody came with me to tell. Closure. Nobody did all that. And it wasn't until my dark moments, my alone moments, where I had to really depend on nobody but God.
Right.
Nobody but God. And so it's still moments that are extremely hard, for sure. But it's understanding that because of that, I am who I am.
Yeah.
Right? Because of my grandmother, I am who I am.
Yeah.
Another piece I'm writing is at Graham's house. At Graham's house is where it all happened, where we all went, where if safety wasn't anywhere else, we knew it was at Graham's house. I remember living with my grandmother and we had no water. We had no water for 1 year, 7 months, and 4 days. How do you do it? We had to run a hose from the neighbor next door house for that long.
It's a long time, brother.
And my grandmother was not going to give up. And people talked about us, and that's what we went through.
Yeah.
And so when an obstacle come up against me or somebody say something, you got to be kidding me. My former first lady, before she passed, would always say, God, you should have never done it if you didn't want me to believe it.
Yes, she did.
You did it before.
Yeah.
And so there is nothing stopping me to believe that you can't do it now.
That's right.
And that's that. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what anybody has to say. That's that. God, you did it before. Right? You literally did it before. Nothing else matters.
That's so good. So we've been on here for a little bit. I hope that you guys really took in what he said. He said a lot, but it was a lot of gems in there. And I want to encourage somebody before we end. I'm going to have him come back. No matter what your current circumstances are, how you feel about yourself, it's not going to last forever. Your issues, your problems, it's not going to last forever. You can do it. You can make it. It's not a cliche. You can make it. You feel there's a young man that's watching, there's a young lady that's watching, you feel like you can't do it. You can do it. You can make it. You know why I say that? Here's an example right in front of you. I went through my own stuff. I had to learn how to walk all over again from a car accident with a sick father that was dealing with cancer. Did you know that, Taquel? When I got hit later on. Yeah. Didn't even know he was dealing with that until I had a conversation after he died. So I know what it feels like to lose someone. I know what it feels like not to believe in yourself or feel like you can do anything. But we are products of what we believe, but we're also products of people that cared. And I can say his grandmother cared about him. I can remember all the times of her calling her. It was a certain way. Woo! My God, I miss that lady. Of how she would call Taquel. I mean, I got to do it real quick, Taquel. I'm sorry. Taquel, it's my baby. I gotta see him. David, look after him. And I said, yes, ma'am. Look after him. Take care of your brother. I said, yes, ma'am. I will say this to you and everybody. She was amazing. She had so much energy. She did not give up. And if I'm wrong, Taquel, she went back and got her master's. Am I correct?
She got her bachelor's and her certification in RN.
Certification. Okay, I'm sorry. But she did that in her elderly age.
She started that at 52.
Yeah.
Started. At 52.
Yeah.
Caught the bus in a jean skirt.
Tell them. Come on.
Visited storm.
Yeah.
Right? Caught the bus downtown and then caught the bus to Syracuse University, OCC first, and then Syracuse University. Made her way back to make sure that we had dinner. We caught the bus to church, and she did all of this starting at 52. There is no reason why we can't do it. So that's exactly why I have the level of education that I have. It's because of my grandmother. Nobody else in my family, and it's no shade to them at all.
Right.
My grandmother did it. Right. And if my grandmother can do it, I could do it.
Awesome. I love it. So we're going to end with this. Again, I'm putting this book up so you guys can understand. Broken by my bro, Taquel Morris-Rodrieguez. You got to get this book. When I say this should be in public schools, what I'm saying, this should be a part of a curriculum to read. Please, I'm being so serious. Please go get this book. Now, to Quell, how can you get this book? And on top of how can you get this book, how can they reach you?
All right. So you can reach me at tequel.com. You can reach me at IamTequel at Tequel support, right? And so I have email, I have a phone number. You can go to my website. Facebook is Tequel Morris-Rodrieguez. Instagram is King_Quell rather. TikTok is Dr. Quell. And so all of it is centered around Quell because that's what I've been called all my life. But again, you can definitely purchase the book at tequel.com, TAQUELL. It will be a personal copy signed by myself. There are multiple people on that are watching that are my sisters that I love them, and I have to shout them out. I have to stop and give this. Christine, I love you to death. Carrie, Nikisha, although she stood me up tonight. My big sister Lorena, and so these are people who, number one, pour into me, right? Pour into me and purchase. It's nothing. It's one thing to have friends who have money, but it's one thing who have friends that have money and support you.
Yeah.
And support you.
I support it, and I'm telling you guys, you should definitely support this man. And he's not done. He's just getting started. He's getting started. And I want to say this to you, man, as we close. Guys, if you enjoyed this, share this with someone. Please share this. If I can get 10 of you to share this live with someone, it'll be a blessing, and it's going to help somebody grow. And I want to say this to you publicly, man. People have tried to hold you down. People have talked about you. People have written you off. Look at you now. And you're not even done. Awesome. I love you, man. And thank you guys so much for your time. Listen, I'll be back on next week for a brand new topic. I can't tell you what it is. You just got to show up. But one thing I want to say to you guys, I want to help you become the best version of yourself, resetting your mind, rebuilding yourself, and renewing. Everybody have a great night. Peace, y'all.